there we go. Okay, here we have Shane who cleared PMP recently, and we can see the joy in his face, so proud. So he's from Canada who did it recently, and so happy, and congratulations from ShriLearning, the team, for his success. And I know it's not a quick, easy journey. It has a lot of steps to follow, a lot of systematic approaches there. So before I go to Shane, I just want to show his successful certificate. That's an accomplishment for him, proud of it, right? So Shane, first of all, congratulations from the team. And also we know that you made it with the determination, working hard. I believe you would have spent at least 2 to 3 hours or 4 hours per day, and you reached out this level. So it will be so nice to hear from you. What's your expression of this PMP clearing? And also a little bit tips, how the exam's going on, how people can approach towards it. That's going to really help most of us. Right. With that, with Shane, back to here.
Hello, everyone. This is Shane. And first and foremost, thanks to ShriLearning Institute, Mr. Sriram, and training team Rahul Gupta. And thank you, everyone, for all the support that you've given me during this tough journey. It was a very rough journey, to be very frank, but it's definitely worth the results. So to begin with, I would start off how my journey started. So back in 2016, when I was working with IBM, there was a project management training that was conducted to give us PDUs. So that is where my interest started, and I liked it, but due to numerous obstacles coming my way, I couldn't pursue the dream. But it was always on the back burner. It was always at the back of my head. Then I migrated to Canada in 2019, and in Jan 2020 I started working from home. I wanted to make use of this time, and then is when I got to know about Mr. Sriram and his style of learning, his effective results, and I enrolled with these guys, and with a lot of trust. It was a very effective session that he had, and it was a very interactive session, a very different style of teaching. And I started off very slowly. From there, my initial plan was to finish the exam by end of March, because I'm somebody who can learn quickly. But due to numerous obstacles back at home and different work schedules, I had an incident to handle at the office. I decided to postpone the exam somewhere in July. And then the plan carried on. And with COVID coming in, everybody started working from home. And then is when I started making use of my travel time to the office. So I started preparing from there. And I followed the plan as given by the ShriLearning Institute. I went with PMP head first initially. And then after that, I started going through Rita. So that gave me, I went through 2 revisions. That gave me a strong foundation of what I could expect in the PMP exams. Now, frequently, I also used to participate in other groups as well. There are numerous groups on Facebook and WhatsApp. They discuss about 10 questions. That was, I would say, that was a very key part to my success as well. And those groups also started sharing what's their experience of the recent exams, and what kind of, how, I would say they even gave us a feedback that there are not too much of questions with regard to calculations or too many questions on change management. A lot of tips and tricks that really helped me. Now I decided to do my exam somewhere in, so I think I said July 10th initially, but due to certain circumstances, I moved it to August. But I got my leave granted for like 5 days from the office. So I checked up the PMI website. I said, let me make use of these 5 days. And I learned that PMP had been giving us a free reschedule if you reschedule the exam within 48 hours. So I took advantage of that, and I said, I'm going to book the exam for this date. I got 5 days to go ahead, and I just booked the exam, and I was all set. And I went through a few mock dumps from Udemy. I also went through the simulators on Prepcast. I used the PMI PMP 200 questions. And few days before the exam, Mr. Sriram tried to follow up with me, and he gave me a very important tip. This tip is, I would say, was the actual elevator. So what he said was, not just analyzing the wrong answers is important, but you need to understand the logic of why you mark that answer correct, and does that line up with the PMP standards. So I spent some time. So I took about 3 or 4. I didn't take too many exams, and I also enrolled with a few other groups as well for a lot of dumps, which would tailor me to bring me onto this platform. So on the 13th of July, I went ahead for the exam, and I didn't expect that I would have an above target for sure. So my plan was to skip the calculation questions, because a lot of groups were telling me there were not too much of calculation questions, about 3 or 4 of them. I wanted to put them for the last. I flagged all those questions in the exam. And procurement management was my toughest chapter. I think I've already told Mr. Sriram as well. I'm sure I had a few questions that were not correct there. And the calculation questions, I put them in the back burner. It was not too tough. It was straightforward. If you had the formulas right, you could just get over them.
Perfect. Perfect.
So that was my experience touching the exam.
How much of agile questions you faced? Did you have more agile questions?
Agile questions, I would say there were about 5 or 10 questions. Now, going back to the questions, Mr. Sriram, what I would say is this is the feedback that I've seen on multiple groups, and this is my personal feedback as well. As of today, not too many questions with regard to calculations. And my suggestion to anyone doing the exam now is put them on the back burner, because they take a lot of time, and finish off all the theoretical questions. A lot of questions on change management, and me being from the ITSM background, it was very easy for me to handle those questions because I've been a part of the CAB, right? So a simple example of a question would be, so a project team member found something nice in the project, and he went ahead and he implemented that change, but later we noticed that there was a change in the budget. It caused an increase. So what was the mistake made by the team member, the project manager? So obviously it would be not following the change management plan and getting it approved by the change management board. Get a lot of questions on that front. A lot of questions on risk management. A lot of questions in the sense with regard to qualitative and quantitative risk analysis. There's a lot of questions there. A lot of questions on control quality and manage quality. And a few questions on, not few, I would say just 2 questions on fast tracking. That's at the top of my head.
Good, you're remembering it.
Oh yeah. Because I finished the exam. I mean, I had about 25-30 minutes to spare, and I felt the key. I felt the key was I had this in my head not to touch the mathematical questions and keep them for the last. And I am 100% sure that the questions from 7 to 15, I made about 4 or 5 mistakes, but that didn't demotivate me. The whole thing is holding your confidence in the exam and holding your cool. So even if you get 4 or 5 questions that kind of derails your momentum, you just have to keep going. And a lot of questions are pretty, if you know how, I would say go through the tools, not too much on the inputs and outputs. It's good to go through, but a lot of questions, if you know the tools, you should be able to answer at least 50 to 60% of the exam very well. And if you know what tool is used for what process, it would be very easy to answer. 2 questions, 2 answers, and I followed the elimination technique. That's again back to credit to you, Mr. Sriram. You taught us during the exam to follow the elimination technique, right? So 2 answers were obviously wrong, and 2 answers would be pretty close. But when you do the logic behind how to choose the answer, and then your book knowledge comes into place, so it comes out very well.
Perfect. I'm so happy to see you're done in 3.5 hours, because recently many candidates are very close to the exam. I mean, last few minutes they close the exam.
Right.
You are pretty fast there. Okay.
Yeah. But 3 hours. I would say 3 hours and 3 hours and 40 minutes is what I took. Then I had the flagged questions which which was pretty straightforward too. Yeah.
That's great. That's great. Great. Good. 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 By the way, how many hours you have to spend per day to reading?
Uh, well, I had a plan in the nights. I used to spend between 12 a.m. and 2 a.m. I used to spend about 2 hours, and sometimes I got times in the morning between 7 and 8. I used to revise what I did in the night, because keeping all that on top of your head is not easy. But like I said, doing the exam, this exam is tough, but it's doable if one stays committed, follows a disciplined, devoted approach. I'm sure that individual is going to come out in flying colors. But practicing questions is a key, because practicing the questions from different chapters by itself will cover the corners of the book, right? And analyzing your logic, why this was right and why this was wrong, definitely adds glitter to the success. Yeah.
Right, right. And I believe your work experience would have added a lot of value when you went for exam. It's not only book knowledge, right? You did a lot in your work. Could be that also plays a bigger role.
Yes. So I don't know how many people would agree with me. What we see in the book is not what we do in the office, in our day-to-day roles. Right. So it's very important as you read the book to relate to what's happening in the office. That makes the concepts easy. It's very important, yeah, because then even when I was going through the integrated change control chapter, a lot of change management questions were there. So then is when I relate how they bring the project-related tasks to the change control board. And there are different terminologies. It may not be a CCD, what is being portrayed. So it could be called a cab, or it could be called what do you say, a vendor change board or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the point what you say. In my corporate, it may not be the same naming convention, but how
Definitely.
do you see it and see that it's very important.
Yes.
Which
Yes.
makes you connect with the subject. If not, it will
Yeah.
totally. You read some subject, you won't connect it well. Okay, I like that.
Definitely.
Well, good, Shane. I think a lot of tips you've given now. So anything on writing habits you do?
Yes, I had a small book that I used, and I made my own notes. I am a bit of a computer guy, and I'm a bit of a paper writing guy. My formulas were all written down to memorize them, and you gave us some tips initially to write down those processes every day, right? So I think within 1 month, I was able to remember that. I didn't do that after that because it was at the top of my head. I just once a week, I had a picture on my wall, and that was good enough. So,
perfect.
Yeah.
Good to see.
And it's very important. Another important factor is to keep your own cheat sheet. When I mean your own cheat sheet, not to cheat in the exam, but to, because the room is going to be screened and scanned. So what I mean was, you write down stuff that is in your own understanding rate. And that's going to help you decode what is in the PMBOK book.
Right.
That's very, very important. Just before the exam, reading that is a huge help.
Oh, yeah, just flip it that you'll get a good connection.
Yes, it refreshes everything. Exactly.
Perfect. I like, I'm seeing most of them who clear the exam, they have their personal notes. Even though the book is there, they write their own notes because their language, my handwriting.
You simplify it.
I know this is what I want from this, right? So that's a very important factor. I like it. Good change. Good point. Great. That's a lot of inputs from you. I'm sure it's going to help people. I know many are looking in YouTube or any video channel to see, will this anything tips will help me to prepare, right? So I think the points what I get from you is, so be disciplined and be consistent. Yeah, exam is tough, possible to do. Have your own note and prepare systematically, right? See some relation to what you do in a corporate and what you learn from the books, right? And the exam, and I like one thing in the exam, you said that when there is a tough question, don't stay there, move away, keep moving.
Yeah.
And let's handle that in the later point. But first gain the confidence with the question, what you know, clear up all the questions and handle the question which you don't know a little later. Don't stay there and lose energy, right? That's a very important factor. I like it.
Yeah. A quick tip for the ones who are going to take the exam from your house. Please do ensure that you run that system test. from the system that you're going to take the exam, and ensure your network is connected. Always have your mobile phone also close to you in case if you fail your fast internet connection. If it fails in the middle of the exam, you can fall back on your phone to do the exam. And a very important point is ensure that you don't use your work computers because they have antiviruses and they have firewalls installed on your laptop, which will not allow the person team to look at your camera.
Right, right.
So
Very
yeah,
important.
so turn off the Windows firewall or turn off any antivirus that you've installed before the exam, or else they will go through a lot of hassles and troubleshooting with you guys.
Right, and that's a valuable point. I heard some candidate, the application got closed automatically. The reason could be the firewall running back, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, good, well, good. Good. Thanks, Shane. That's a very important information and a lot of positive thoughts from you. First of all, thanks for coming here to give some inputs, which is going to help a lot of people.
My pleasure.
Right. Once again, good wishes from ShriLearning and the team for your hard work. And now you're top 2%. We want you to materialize in your corporate. That's very important. Getting certificate is one part. How do you materialize?
Utilizing it.
Yeah,
Definitely.
you have to implement it. You have to use it. You have to grow higher in your career. So all the wishes, keep rocking. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Thank you, team. Thank you, everyone. Take care. See ya.